that rolling. All right. The link should be active. If you accidentally got to the point where it said permission, I apologize. Just refresh, and you should be able to get in. If you're still having problems, give a hand raise, and I will try and figure out what's going on. But everyone should be able to get in. Okay? So today we are talking about devices, and we're doing a little wrap-up, as well as any of your questions. And then you're on your own. No, really, seriously, I am kidding. You're not on your own, because Julie and I are here for all of you. Seriously, you're not on your own. You're never on your own. Even with Julie and I, we are never on our own. But today is our last session. Okay, so you do have your Friday afternoons for whatever other things you have. I do want to bring to your attention there is a date in November that the open houses designated for all of you, there is a cancellation. November 16th, it will be canceled. Sorry, I apologize. I have to take a day off. So that date will be canceled. Okay, but every other date is still on the calendar. There are sheets on the side. That date's been crossed off. If you have a sheet in front of you, please cross it off. That date will not be on the televisions if you come into the building, and probably the door will be closed that day because Jolie normally is a little bit busy on Friday afternoons. I may be answering emails that day, but I can't guarantee it. Okay? But please don't stop in and expecting me to be helping you. It also is the day before you go on Thanksgiving. So I didn't think that was too harsh of a day to cancel for all of you. Okay? But sorry. I'll be sitting at home with a knee propped up with some ice. So, okay? But any questions in general from last week and the 2 weeks before that? Sorry, 2 weeks ago, since Julie and I were in Minnesota last week. So from the 3 weeks that we've done so far, any questions that we want to address that you have so far? All right, so why don't we launch in? A few of you just walked in the door. You want to grab this, and then you'll have this so that you can go from there. Today, our agenda is that we're going to go over a few reminders from previous weeks. We're going to talk about how you're going to be deciding which way to go for how long your set goes on, and then what happens in the IEP. We're also going to be talking about those device-type areas, since we've talked so heavily about speech-generating devices. Typically, we talk about the iPad as that speech-generating device. We're going to go into other types of devices. I've got lots of different toys up here, so I'm going to encourage you all to come up at the end. I'll push it into the middle, and we can all enjoy touching things if there's something you want to play with in particular. And then we're also going to talk about where do you go for a loaner and where do you go with your set paperwork. Very important, okay? Never should anyone be emailing myself and saying, hey, Tam, I need this. Hey, Tam, here's my paperwork. Because I get so many emails in a day, we have streamlined everything. So in case I'm not the person doing it or in case someone else is, we've streamlined it into a Google survey, so everything is pushed into there, so we can also be doing some data tracking as well for when I need to report to supervisors and administrators higher up. So if you really pay attention as we start going through there and as you keep track of these links, it's really going to support you in that area. You are only going to need to know where our web page is because over time those links will change. So what I like to tell people is if you bookmark our page or remember how to get back to that page, that's the easiest. But you're welcome to bookmark the link, and then when it changes, remember how to go back to it. There is a search on the AT page on the website for MCIU, and the reason it's there is so that I can help all of you get to our page. Helps you find other things as well, but I always like for all of you to get to our page rather easily. So that's one of the reasons why we have search on the MCIU webpage. All right, so is everyone on this link? Almost. Okay. You're okay. I'm going to take a picture of it, and then I'm going to hand it right to you, okay, Kat? And then you don't have to, and then we can move on. Oh, you got it? Perfect. All right. Wasn't sure how long your computer was taking to upload. All right, so first thing we're going to talk about is when are we going to have a set? Many of you come to me in the ATRC and you talk about, well, when should I be having that set? I'm not sure what's going on. So I've put together a few compilations of a few lists. There are different reasonings why you would have a set for a student. The first one is if your student comes to you and it's on the IEP and it says you need to have this in X amount of months. Now we've talked about it should be, that 3 to 6 months depending on what that timeline is for the team to get into place, for you to figure out what's going on with your student, for you to figure out what's going on and be able to have some baseline data to try out a few things. Always check your IEP and to know if a set should be done, okay, especially from when it comes in from a student being for transition or anything like that. Really important, do they have a communication need? You've got Kathy here who can't functionally communicate. She's a few words, and she's 4. She's walking up to a kid and she's smacking them because she wants the toy that they have. She can't communicate. She has that need. Really important if the parent's requesting it. I don't think any of these are out of the ordinary, but just as little reminders. Really important one. A student has a device. They went through, bless you, they went through a eval somewhere else. Maybe they transferred in from another county, another state, or maybe they went somewhere else for an eval. Maybe they went to CHOP or they went to DuPont. And here they are. They walked into your classroom. They walked onto your caseload. And miraculously, oh look, we have a device. We have a much more complicated device, or we even have some lower tech. We still need to have a set, and the reason we need to have the set is so we as a team can be implementing that and supporting that student through that process. And we can still be taking data because the student could be taking off, and we want to make sure that everything's going well and making sure that updates are being done. Maybe the lower tech isn't enough. Maybe we need to go to a higher tech. Or if we are at that higher tech process, are we keeping it up to date? Who's charging it? Who's keeping it backed up? All of those really important processes, okay? Just as if we had started that set process.
Is that even if they're being followed by CHOP?
Yes.
Okay, so
because we're still in the educational aspect, and we want to support that. Yep, still important if CHOP's following them. Because now we may have different roles. Who's going to be updating it? Who's going to be backing it up? Depends within that set paperwork. But that implementation process, that support for the student in the educational process every day, that's really important. And we're supporting the family as well. We could have a role when we are supporting communication back and forth. If the parent allows communication between CHOP and the team, really important.
Yes.
There have been opportunities where you can communicate back and forth. But again, sign-offs have to be made. Okay? So those are really great opportunities there. Okay? A prior set's in place. Really important. Okay? Sometimes you come onto a team and you don't know if a set's been in place. There's no paperwork. A student moves from one placement to another. A student physically moves from one caseload to another. It needs to be in the case, it needs to be in the file, and it also needs to be uploaded to where we house it. Because if someone comes to me and they go, Tammy, I need this kid's set. Do you happen to have any? I don't know if there is any. There's nothing in the file, and it leads me to believe the student has something from what the parent's telling me, and I go, I've got nothing. Happened this week. Well, lo and behold, I find out that the student did have a set. But I had to track it down because it wasn't in the file. It wasn't uploaded. That means that I have to go around and start hunting of who those therapists are, which I don't have access to. I don't know who's on each caseload. I have to start finding that out from early intervention on third floor. Okay, so if it's in the file and it's been uploaded, really, really important. Okay. There are some legal aspects that can cause things. Okay, so really important. So be aware that you may get told, do what's said on this kid. We know those kids. Been told plenty of times to do those, even though maybe you didn't realize you needed to do one. Maybe you thought you were doing it properly. So just be careful on those. Okay? Any questions? Most of these you're doing well. Okay, just be careful. There have been set paperwork slipping through the cracks. Okay? And I know a lot of changes have been happening. I'm going to make sure that when I'm checking in with all of you with kids with devices, you're going to make sure that that paperwork's been uploaded, just so we're safe with that. We're going to double check that that's been uploaded, especially recently. Yeah?
If we send a request and then we have to send the form with you,
Yep.
is that considered that it's now uploaded? Or
Yep.
do we have to do it again somewhere else?
So that's considered it's uploaded, yes. I'm going to make sure you know where that is. You've done that. You've done an upload. But some people don't realize it's there, the link's there. Some people just don't realize that link is there. And there's actually a spot on where requests are that has me check off if it's been uploaded. Okay, the only people who I don't have to check with are districts, because districts are doing their own. Okay, and that's in school age. All right. All right. So then we're going to talk about how quickly do you do set. Okay. So when it's initial set, you have that initial time, and then you set up your next date. You're doing it about 2 to 3 months later, sometimes sooner, depending on how iffy your families are or how iffy you feel. You know, I have some people who've said to me, I'm very concerned about this team. I'm very concerned about this family. You can have it sooner, okay? But typically it's about that 2 months to 3 months. Typically closer to the 3 months, because it depends on how you can get it scheduled too, okay? Loaners are typically out for 2 months, but we know in EI, because of how much time you're looking at seeing a student and getting data, it can be up to 3 months, okay? Typically it's the first month that you're working with the student, and then you start taking data to the second month. So you may not want to, get it until that 2.5 month because of meeting with your family. When I look at EI, I'm okay looking at that 2.5, 3 months, because I've been an itinerant. I've been with teams, and it's tough to get that specific date as well. So I can see it at that 3 month as well, okay? Because it's a quarter of your year when you're meeting, okay? It's tough to get a meeting in 2 months, okay? If there's progress thereafter, and you know that they're making progress, it can be another 6 months later. But is it consistent progress? So should it be a full 6 months later, or do they need another meeting in those 3 months later? So you need to figure out how much progress they're making. Is it leaps and bounds that you know that they can go on their own for those 6 months, or should it be another 3 months? Okay, so it is wishy-washy, and I'm sorry to say that, but you kind of have to figure out from that initial how much hand-holding needs to be done until the next meeting, okay? Or can things be done via email? It is difficult, that second to that third meeting, okay? And that makes it difficult. to figure out what type of meeting you're going to need and how much time it's going to need. So if you have a student who's taken off when you've given them a device or given them support, you can go up to 6 months later. But I would keep in contact with them on a monthly basis to make sure the entire team, things are happening through email to find out what do we need? Is anything happening? Are there any breakdowns? So that if you need a meeting before then, you can stop and get a meeting, because it may take you 2 months to get a meeting. Because if something happens at month 3, you may not be able to get a meeting until month 5, because we know schedules. We know how our schedules are, and you know how family schedules are, as well as everyone else's. Okay? So it's going to have to be one of those, do you feel more comfortable scheduling at initial, and then 2 to 3 months later, and then 2 to 3 months at it again? Or do you want to spread it out because we know our schedules? Okay? Any questions with that? And what we do is we call these resets because we're re-looking at that paperwork. We're re-looking at where that student is. Okay? We're filling out all of that information if anything needs to be changed, or we're updating it. Okay? If students not making progress, you need to do it sooner. Okay? So if you see a student who's not making progress at 6 weeks, we always put at the bottom, we have to email everyone. You know, we've come across problems so that we can get in a meeting. And that's why I say it may be initially easier if you set up a meeting at 3 months. But also, if you're at those 6 month meetings and they just start making non-progress, you're going to need a meeting before the next 6 month meeting. And we know how students make progress and all of a sudden there's no progress, or they may have rejection of what they're doing. They may just have disengagement of that device. So we need to figure out what's going on and what to do to support them so they can communicate. Because we don't want them to not be able to communicate. We want to really support them so that they have an opportunity to communicate. Okay? And this may have to happen in some way that everyone can be on board, but we know that not everyone can be within the same room so you all can meet. Okay? I know I do a lot of virtual. Can you have people there virtually to support, your concerns? Can some people attend virtually? We all have access to Link on our computers as the IU employees. Can we get this reached out to people, and you can set up a meeting that way so people can jump on and give them access so that we're able to speak about the issues we're seeing, so that everyone can attend if you want to have a meeting quicker, so that families can attend, therapists can attend, and communicate what's going on. Okay. All right. Any questions about how often you're looking at meetings? So at a minimum, you want to have them every 6 months. Okay. Really, really important. That's the most important part. Okay. So when I'm checking in with you at that 6 month period, I normally check in December, and I normally check in at June and September. June is to make sure the student still has the device. September is to make sure they're still using it, and who has become that case manager type person in case it's changed. Yeah, it's October and I'm behind. But you have to tell me, what's going on with those timelines. Okay? Has a meeting occurred? You'll have a date in the future, things like that. Okay, when we come to those 6 months timelines. Okay, I know that you all have to get your meetings set up for your kiddos and everything like that. Dates are perfectly fine. Many of you talked to me about dates. I just had a few emails this week. We've got one scheduled. We've got them coming up. We still have to schedule it because of timelines. Those are all things that you guys can be communicating. Okay? All right. So then we talk about next steps. Okay? So while you're going through that set phase, okay, there's lots of different processes that you're going through. Making sure things work. Making sure they're successful. That's really the important part. You're continuing the set process, and we're always continuing that set process even when we know that we've had a successful set. Okay? But the testing phase talks to us about, what are we doing? How are we working through it? It really walks us through all of those 3 pages and any changes we're going to make. So it's really important for us to keep making those changes. We keep updating it. We're really continuing that set process of trialing anything, seeing if there's any changes, tweaking of a particular device, a higher end device that we need, really figuring out what works and what doesn't work for this specific kiddo. Okay? And then once we say Johnny needs a device that's going to work, needs a specific mount, and he needs a dynamic display. Okay? And he needs a 9.7-inch screen. Okay, you notice that no point I've mentioned that this is an iPad. And he needs a system that does not jump too many times into folders. Okay? And that has his specific food as well as able to communicate. Okay? Very minimal folders in GoTalk. I'm not talking about Protocol to Go, which is a more in-depth process. So all I'm doing is describing all of those features. Okay? And in this case, with the GoTalk, he's on a 4x4 grid. Okay? I'd never mention GoTalk. I would never mention that it's an iPad. I'm describing all of those features. Part of the reason why I'm describing the features and not that it's an iPad, that the mount is by Modular's hose, is that I'm comparing apples to apples. Okay? Just like you never mention a curriculum, because if the student moves to another district, the district must purchase the curriculum. You're comparing whatever that feature is. Okay? What makes it appropriate for the student? Okay? Yeah.
What happens if we have somebody move in from another county and their IEP does name it?
Then we are responsible for using that. And then when we do the editing and putting together a brand new IEP, we then can correct it and support it in that way. But yes, they have heard us, but it's our goal to support our students until that process. Okay? Yes, it does hurt us. Yes. That is why when people come to us and they go, well, we want a NovaChat, and we want a NovaChat 10, and we go, well, here's the features of a NovaChat 10. That is equivalent to this. And this is why it is appropriate for this preschooler. And this is what we're going to trial. And most people go, oh, that works perfect. Because we're not going to be carrying around a, 5-pounder compared to a 1-pounder. We can make most people understand what the features equate to. When you make the features equate to something, they understand that process. Okay? That's the key, is the features, to understand that process. Okay? And when you compare them side by side, and understand that process. It's really key. So, and if you need help to understand what those features are, that's what we're here for. So, okay. There's some great ways to show you what you're also going to be updating once you have that successful set. I can't tell you what a successful set for your kiddo is. So if you come to me and you're like, well, Johnny is doing amazing on blah, 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 blah app on the blah, 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 blah device. Okay. Is he communicating better than he was when you started the set? That's going to always be my statement. And if you say yes, then I'm going to say, well, it sounds like you've had a successful set. Do you feel this is where you're going to be? And if the answer is yes, then I'm going to say, then go to the next step, which is a successful set. Which means you're going to now legally put information into the IEP. Okay? That's the cutoff. You're legally putting it into the IEP, which means we are now responsible, as we were with the set, but we're now putting it into the IEP. We're not saying Johnny's going to get an iPad full with GoTalk Now Plus. We're saying the features. Okay? Because what happens if tomorrow GoTalk Now Plus is no longer compatible with the current iOS? That's the difficult part. Okay? Yes?
Do we have an existing PIU of the features that we would use for the different things, just so that what we're saying and what we're using in our sets are consistent? So when we see this type of device with this and this, we know what we're talking about, but it's very consistent between us.
We don't have a list only because they keep changing slightly. But we can work on, we can add one more thing to our list.
I just think that would be so useful because
I have some things, she was just asking, I have some different reasons again, but they might, it's not updated. But
Yeah, if you send it to me, I can probably update it from when we were at the training last week. No, that's fine. Joanne, if you want to send it to me, I can look at it between this week and next, and we're compiling this for you. What?
it won't happen.
No, that's fine. We can get that to you. And like we said, we're trying to put those resources. I have a couple things in the slides. We can put those up on the webpage so that it's not just for you guys. It's for everyone in school age in our districts. And the page just keeps growing on the AT page, and that's our intent, is so that it's very comfortable for all of you, and that's something that you can go to all the time. That's what we want for you. Okay? Yep.
So, say I do testing with 2 different apps.
Yep.
And they're working reasonably well with both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we picked one because, it's basically apples and apples. We have no real difference. We picked one. And there's a few features that are slightly different. Do I have to put all of those features that are different and consistent to that app, or should I just only put the ones that are for both apps that really matter?
You don't have to.
Okay.
You don't have to. You can put the main features.
So the size of the pictures kind
Correct.
of thing.
Yep.
Whereas if they're working with a specific symbol set, we don't necessarily want to put that in.
No.
Okay.
No. Because symbol sets may change. And students aren't particularly tied to one particular symbol set unless they are.
Mm-hmm.
If a student is tied to a particular symbol set, then you'll want to mention it.
Okay.
Okay? I saw another hand. Yep.
How many months into the process are we before we're putting it into the IEP? About the course?
Roughly 6 months or longer. I have seen some kids have to go longer, like some of Tricia's students. Some of our school-age students are more complex students. There may be some of your students who take longer for you to figure out if it has worked. The nice thing about EI is that we are their LEA. Now, it needs to be in their transition year. Not just, it doesn't have to be checked for, when I get to the annotated IEP. It doesn't have to be checked that they're using AT. It needs to be in present ed levels. Because if that IEP goes to a district and they're not aware that they're using in some set process, and they come back to me and go, Tam, help. It's happened this year. They're in kindergarten. Now, there's some other situations going on, but it needs to be in there that there is going on in a present ed level that they're going through the set process. Okay? When it's successful, I'm going to show you where it goes. If you're in the middle of your IEP, so the IEP is today. You also set up the set today. Blanket statement. We are starting a set with Johnny, and we are working on functional communication. Blanket statement. That tells you that you have started a set. That doesn't tell you what you've done except work on functional communication. Okay? May be successful, may not be successful. But it at least informs someone in the future. It also informs, check your IEP. Okay? It informs people that there is a set in place. Now, could it end? Yes. It could end in the future, so then you have to be checking that in the future. Some districts are very, very strict and say you have to do a revision every time you have a set meeting. Okay? Now, that's something a supervisor has to have that conversation with. I don't know if that's what they want you to do or not. That's not what I'm going to tell any of you to do. Okay? That's what the supervisors have to make the decision on. But some of our school districts at K through 12, that's what they're doing. I'm not going to tell you to do that. That's a decision from early intervention, third floor. Okay? Yes.
Are you saying that the statement that we are starting a set with blank for functional communication, does that go in the present ed levels?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep, goes in the present ed levels. Okay? All right, so I'm going to show you these two documents. Okay? The first document, it's actually this document, okay? It is on Patton's website. And it talks about where, once you start putting this into your IEP, where you can be talking about it. Okay? So this is successful. Okay? Where can you be talking about this? Okay? You could be putting in special considerations. You're putting it in present levels, especially in speech as well as itinerant or classroom, OT with present ed levels, as well as annual goals. Transition services is really important to make sure the district knows that a set and a device is in place. Okay. This is the link. There's two links. I'm sorry, I will fix it. Sorry. Is that better? So this is a 3-page document, and it walks you through the most important section. Is on page 2, and it talks about different areas for you to be working through, as well as support. So it could be making sure that there's different trainings that you guys are working on. Because remember, you're putting the trainings in your set paperwork, but to make sure everyone gets trained. To make sure that you might be putting in some training. Okay? So lots of different things. This happens a lot in school age. So make sure that everyone learns the different information. Okay? Your SDIs. Okay? Really important there. But present ed levels is really important. You could be changing some annual goals so that you're making sure you're keeping data on that device. Okay? Because now that the student is using the device, how is the student communicating? Okay, so you're incorporating that in. All right? The second link links to your annotated IEP. Okay, so once you know that student is successful and you as a team have agreed, okay? So number 5 talks about the student's communication needs, but then you go to number 6, and that is, does the student need assistive technology and devices and services? So now you're checking it yes. Because before you were like, well, I really think they do, but now we're not quite sure. Okay? And now you've decided through that set process, you're like, yep, Johnny needs that device. Johnny needs that device. And it needs to go on the IEP. Okay? So in this case, they're talking about any device, any piece of equipment that's off the shelf or customized or modified. So we click the yes, and then we go and we explain it in the Preds and Ed levels, and we go and explain it in any of your goals. Okay? You explain it much more in depth and how it's being used and where it's being used, and that you've completed a set process. Now that doesn't stop the set process because things change, locations change. Students still need updating. Students still need to be watched. So this device is not going to end just because Johnny has had a successful trial. Device still needs backed up, still needs to be continuously updated with whatever communication is being put on here. I mean, Kathy needed a charger today. Those simple things are going to be continuously needed to be updated and checked, all those little things. But now you should be able to go to about every 6-month meeting, and it should be a quick meeting at those, and then you can do it at your IEP. You may be able to do those 6-month meetings as a virtual meeting because it should become well processed. Okay? Those are the type of meetings that it may only be a half-hour meeting, that it's an update the prior meeting notes and then make any changes. Or say it's status quo. We're going to continue to do this. If there's new team members, we're just going to update them. Give them some links that you've had previously or that need to be updated because the website changed slightly, and give them support. Okay? Any questions? Okay. Once you get to where you are supporting the student and they've been successful, it's more about making sure things are going smoothly, supporting those members who are new to the team, and making sure nothing's happening. A lot of times what ends up happening is students who've had a device that started in early intervention and now they're in school age, it's more about making sure the students who that vocabulary is being updated, making sure that the device, there aren't any problems, because maybe the device started out 3 years ago and maybe the iOS is going out of date. Making sure all those updates are being done, making sure they don't need to consult about any issues like that. The minor things, not so much complex support, just those little things. Okay? All right. So then we're going to go into types of technology. Okay? And this is probably going to be an overview for many of you, but I want to make sure that you have this base knowledge, okay? Especially as we start going into the website for our loaners and everything. So I apologize if it's an overview. Just bear with me. I just want to make sure you have that base knowledge and understand all those terminologies that we're working with, okay? So, sorry, my swivel just went wacky and said it yelled at me. Okay. All right, so the first one is low tech. It's very inexpensive. It's quite simple. It's typically as minimalistic financial as possible. I think we skipped Midtech. There we go. So Midtech is as low cost as possible, if not no cost. We typically talk about this with unaided language, so it's nothing being added. If you tell, I am a very talky person with my hands. We talk a lot with gestures and signs, all those naturalistic processes that we talk every single day in our language. Okay? It also talks about that way that we can support students. If you have a student in your classroom who needs to write their name, but they have a lot of fine motor issues, we can use stamps. I can use a stamp. The student sitting next to them can use a stamp. Even if they don't have a fine motor issue, everyone can use a stamp. So it's that universal design for learning process, if you like to look at it. Also a slant board for access. On my iPad, I have a mount that allows it to be slanted. If I didn't, I could just use a slant board, or I could use a binder, so that I'm giving the same type of access to a student, very low cost. Okay, something I already have. So we look at that no-tech, really looking at that financial burden is very simplistic, that process. So then we start looking at that no-tech. It's inexpensive. Sometimes it's a little bit of a cost. We look at, it's a limited or a no electronic. It really depends on how you're looking at it. A lot of times we're looking at switches. So I've got a couple different switches up here. And different types of symbols. Okay? A lot of visual schedules that many of you use in your classrooms. And you can also create a board, a core board for your student. In this case, this is a flip board. If any of you are interested in something like this, Kathy can help you. Once you've created it, she can put it together. But this is a simple main core board, and then it's a flip board for your fringe. And it's a really nice way of communicating. But when we start looking at Big Macs, this is where we start getting simple. So this is, if this Big Mac is used as one step, it would be a low tech. In this case, this is a step-by-step, so I can make multiple messages. It's a little higher up. Okay? Really depends how you're using the technology. And so that you know, the coloring can change. A lot of you only use the color that it gets sent out in, but there's lots of different colors these can change for your students. So if you need a red, or you need a yellow or a blue, they come in 4 different colors. And you can take your switch and it connects into your other switch depending on where your students have access. So if your student is not able to lift their hand from the table to that switch, there are other switches. In this case, we've got a small switch, or even a smaller switch. Okay? There's even a more complex switch, which we'll talk about in a minute. Some of the best switches, if you walk out of the office, is one of these. So this is just a simple one message, comes with a bumper pad so that it pulls apart. You press. This one says more, please. This one says bye, I'm leaving. It's just like the one that's up in the office. And it's as simple as taking a paper clip and hitting record. You record your message, and then you can, most people put a picture here. We actually put it on this side and then mount it. In the ATRC, we mount it with one of those command strips. Mounts on the wall. A lot of times people do that in the home or in the preschool classroom, so when the student goes by, they press it, and then they have access to one message, but it's low tech. It's simple. It's as simple as it gets. Radio Shack used to sell these. We buy them from a company, an AT company, but that's as simple as it gets. One message. It's just like the Staples button. That's as simple as it gets. Yes, that's as simple as it gets. We've hacked those buttons. We used to hack those buttons. Trust me. When you get to the AT to our AT groups, we hack those buttons. Okay. There are a few no-tech links I've given you. This is actually my favorite link to give everyone. Okay. We all talk about, I want to build a student's knowledge, but they're just overwhelmed. This is a video which will show you how to take the board that you want a student to be at and to pare it down. Okay? This is actually a sample. You'll get the whole sample from them once you link into it and you watch the YouTube video. And then you can mask it, and that's the intent. So they have this whole board, and they show you how to put it onto a file folder. And what they've done is they've built pieces so that as the student learns, you pull out the page, and then you see more. So it's very much like progressive language on Proloquo to Go. But if your student is not ready for a dynamic display or needs a backup, they've done this and you've used sleeves on a file folder. Okay? So if you're working in the classroom or you're working in a preschool and you want something as backup or want something for a teacher to work on at a table, this is a great masking opportunity so that you can build that process. Now, you don't have to keep all of the build-up process in there that you're getting to. You could just put the one sleeve in there and know where the rest are. But it lets you build up to where you're getting to and where your goal is for those students. Because we know we don't want to move that core and move those fringe that you're working on with those students. Okay? So that's where that link is. Okay? So I like to show everyone that, and I thought this was a perfect place to show that to you. Okay? All right, so then Midtech. And Midtech is more complexity. Okay? So it talks about more buttons. So Go Talks. Make sure Go Talks turned on. Whoop. Whoop, and I just changed my batteries and they must have died on that one. But Go Talks. Now, Go Talk here compared to Go Talk on the iPad. Gives students the opportunity to communicate. It's not dynamic, so we're not jumping.
I want sausage.
So it's just this page.
I need the bathroom.
And if you're going to change pages, they're pushed in here, and then you change your level. You're recording, okay?
I am thirsty.
Okay, so this was recorded and returned. So I grab that one for you guys. Or more complex. So a double switch, giving students more opportunity.
Please wait. No.
Okay, so students are learning two different switches to build them up. Okay, bless you. Or to give them that opportunity for to vocalize at the same time. You could be doing two different things. There are other switches that there's multiple switches. Okay, maybe you're doing an activity. Maybe this is giving you the opportunity to say, well, why can't we do this on a dynamic display? Why can't we go to the next process? And then the next aspect is,
it's Friday. What are we doing today?
yes, I was very chipper.
I get to go away this weekend. It's Friday.
Very chipper. Trying to keep you guys awake. And then this is the same exact switch, only it's smaller, at a different angle. Okay. Now these can also be mounted, but it's at a different angle for a student. Okay. So thinking about how you can support students if you're looking at how they're communicating. Okay? A different type of switch. I know you're all saying, I don't think my kid can do that. So this is a switch with a battery. I have to turn it on. I am not touching this switch, but you may be able to see the lights and the sound. This is called a proximity switch. I'm coming in within proximity of this switch to then activate. Okay. And put it into the switch. Yeah, shush. Hey. Come on. You're being a pain. You're supposed to work. Oh no. You're really not working. It's not going to send in the devil. Well, you're not working. I'll have to figure out what's going on. This battery may be dying. But this is also coming out in a larger size, about 2.5 times its size. And it should be here any day. So now our students have access to even larger spacing. This is used quite often for our students with mounts very close to their faces so that they can hear it and they barely have to move. Trish, I don't know if any of your kiddos use this.
I have a few that probably could.
Okay. We have quite a few students who are in our school age who they mount two. So on one side, it activates a yes or no or some other type of a system. And all they have to do is move ever so gently depending on how they access it. We get it mounted on a switch access mount right here. So all they have to do is move ever so gently. And it activates both type of switches. Okay? And now we'll have a larger one coming out, and we'll actually be able to turn off that beep and turn off the lights as well. So they've built that into it too. Okay, so that'll be here hopefully within the next week or two. That order was put in the last couple weeks. Okay. All right. And this typically when we look at the Midtech, they have a lot more knowledge, a lot higher level thinking. When you're trying to understand how to use it, there's videos, there's guides that you need to be using it for, so they're a higher level. Yeah, Trish? Oh, okay, sorry. They are higher level than your lower levels, and that's why when we say a go talk, it's much higher level. When you're going to that step-by-step, there's more information for you to understand how to use it. And there's typically some type of a guide for you to understand and to make sure you're using it properly. Okay? And then our high-tech. And our high-tech are the highest of the highest. These are electronic devices, almost always. They have some type of a storage and retrieval process, as well as they have a weight to them. Most of them are not very lightweight, but they have gotten much lighter in time. As you can tell that your speech-generating devices are now under high-tech because there's multi-levels of access to them. There's also different ways to access them. You can touch them in different ways. It's either direct or indirect. So I can definitely touch, okay? I can indirect touch it, so through Bluetooth. I'm using a Bluetooth clicker today, but students can use Bluetooth switches to access their device. So I have had students have different types of switches connect to a speech-generating device so that they can access it. So maybe they only have access to part of their finger to access, and they're able to then use scanning. Okay, as well as eye gaze. There are some students around our county who are using eye gaze, and as long as we have the proper mounts, eye gaze works perfect. And we really enjoy watching those students communicate and thrive. I had the pleasure earlier this week watching a student who didn't have success last school year with eye gaze, and she is thriving with eye gaze. And her trial is going really well. And that was in a school-age classroom. We do have some students who are in EI who are using some eye gaze as well. So we never want to limit where our students are. We've had some students who've gone from eye gaze in EI and gone into school age as well. So never say, I don't think this is going to work, because I'd rather us try it and see where it goes. That's always the fun part of seeing, let's see what happens. Because the worst thing that happens is you see this child just thrive, and it's amazing. It really is. I have put some resources there for you to look at some different high-tech information there as well. So I hope you get the opportunity to take that time to look at those resources too. Okay? Are there any questions about no-tech, low-tech, mid-tech, high-tech? It's all that continuum, and everything is moving through that process. A lot of times things keep moving down that continuum, and we do keep getting higher and higher tech devices out there as well. Okay? All right. So now we're going to talk about the HRC and how this affects you. Okay? Not only how it affects your sets, but also how it can support you when you come in for consultations, when you want to talk about what your student can use, but also so that you can gain some knowledge. Okay, really important. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about is when you're looking for a loaner. Okay, and I'm actually going to take you right to this page. Okay, I'm going to go out on the site and link to it. So when you are looking to borrow something, you're going to complete this loaner form. Okay? This loaner form, I'm going to walk you through how to get there, but this is the direct link. Okay? And if you notice, it walks you through, it talks to you about, having up to 2 weeks to process it. Okay? Really important for you to know that when you're filling out your set paperwork. Just because one day I was able to turn around in a day doesn't mean that tomorrow I can turn it around in a day again. Okay, we all have busy schedules. I will email you back once it is ready. So I noticed some spelling error. Really important. The person putting in the loaner, if it's not going to be the MCIU employee, if you can also put in who the person from MCIU it's connected to in parentheses, that would be helpful. And that's just so that I can track it back. Okay? I always want to put that back because I know that there may be some contractors in classrooms or things like that. Yep.
What are you saying? So is the contracting institute manager?
No. If the contractor is putting it in for, say, a classroom or something like that, then I need to also know who that's associated to. Because you are doing your own, but you're in a classroom, correct? So if you're doing it for your classroom, I need to know who the teacher is as well. Okay? And then they'll have to be putting that in there as well. There'll have to be, there's another spot for that where the case manager is. But if it's associated to a classroom, I need to know that as well. And I'll add another spot for it on there in the EI section. I have it there, but some people forget what that section is. So I'm going to go through the EI section. So I'm going to put in and it prompts you to put everything in correctly, and it will prompt you if you type it in incorrectly. Okay, so, and then drop-down menus. This is the student's living district. So if your district that your classroom is in, I do not want that. Because say your classroom is in Upper Dublin, but your student lives in North Penn. I literally want North Penn. Okay? We've had a few that have been put in incorrectly. Okay, so just be cautious of that. All right? And then the type of classroom, if it's a classroom or a setting. Okay? So I'm putting in preschool. And then the program. So you guys are going early intervention. Okay? Whoops. All right. So I filled out the first page. Because you chose early intervention, it's pushing you to specific early intervention pieces. Okay? You have to choose which year the student's transitioning, and then the case manager. So I'm just going to put, if this is, and I'm also going to, I'll end up putting another page on here, but you can put if it is actually a case manager or if it's a classroom. So I'll have another drop-down menu for you guys for specific choices here, okay? Really important, I've had in the past where case managers did not know about this, okay? And then if they don't, I add them onto the email, okay? And then we go into what are you loaning, okay? We're going to go through each of these, okay? The only one we will not go through is the last one because that is a school age item. But if you're going to be borrowing an iPad, so in this case, we'll take a mini. What type of case do you want? Okay. So in this case, we're going to take a kid case, no strap. Yep, life proof's right there. Okay. We title as life proof, but it is actually not a life proof typically anymore. It's considered a different title, but that's what most people understand as. Okay, so you can either have a strap or no strap. Okay. So they're all there. You just need to scroll down. Okay. And in preschool, you typically do not do portfolio. Okay. We typically do those around 3rd grade. And if you put in portfolio, I will email you back and go, are you sure this is what you want? Okay. And then if you want a specific app, please let me know. So in this case, I'm going to put in Touch Chat, HD. And that's what I'm going to put in. This last one is not required. If you notice the one above it has a star, this last one, if there's a specific information you need me to know. I am only here on Fridays. So that tells me I can email you days you're here on Fridays, and so am I. Some people leave it blank. Some people write me love letters. Okay? And then you hit submit. Okay? Any questions? Yep.
So we don't have to be more specific. It doesn't tell me that we want touchpad or photo now.
If you want a specific app, that's what you write. Yep. Let me go into it again. I'll show you. I'll show you the back end of it. I just need to pull it up. Give me a second. This is my whole form. That's all it is. Whoops, sorry. So you just need to tell me what that is. I'm going to show you where that inventory list is. Okay? If you're requesting an iPad, please state the apps for trial. I'm going to show you where the inventory list is. But you'll know what apps you want. It can be one or it can be more. And what I do is I pull those on the first page for you. Okay, make sure that they're the most up-to-date, including to that day that you're picking it up, in case the wonderful developer has pushed it, update that day. But that's all you have to do. Okay? You don't have to do anything else. What's your other? What were you thinking?
So then the next step, reducing the number of icons, all of that.
That's all your setup. Yep, that's all of your setup in your set. That's what you do. I don't do that setup, but if that's support you need, that's when you ask for a consultation from me, or you come in on the open house days. I do not do your setup for you. There have been rare times I've done it, mainly because of birth to 3.
So I'm in a costume, but I also have an itinerant student who's supposed to have a set meeting. If he does end up needing a device, the MCIU person that I would put in that as the
Case manager?
Case manager? Okay. So it wouldn't be like the OT or the...
Nope, it's the case manager. And it is easier if you put in the person is the case manager, because it's easier for me to get in contact with them here because it's physically here. Also, we need to have an IU person attached to this. You can be, as a contractor, you can be on this, but I need an MCIU employee on this. And that's because that's who I'm contacting to update and to get things to easier as well. Okay, they're typically here. Sometimes it's difficult for you to be here as well as to update when I'm trying to get that 6 month, that update. So, okay, and that's why I'm asking who that case manager is. We always have a connection here at the IU. I have no problems touching base and putting both of you on. A lot of times I will put both of you on, but that's not a problem at all. So, okay. All right, questions about loaners? Okay. Sneak out of here. All right, so then the next section is that paperwork. Now, I'm going to show you a secret. A lot of people have told me, I don't know where the set paperwork is. Okay? I'm going to go to this page in just a moment, but here is where loaners were, and right below it is where set paperwork was. I fixed a few things. Let me go to that page. Actually, I will go to that page in just a moment because I want to save you some clicks. All right, so here's the set paperwork. It's very simplistic. Your name, your first name, your last name, your email address, your student's first and last name. Yes, this is used for EIN school age. Is this an initial meeting or is this your follow-up? And then upload those files. And then did you name them correctly? The reason I ask you did you name them correctly is because I have received files that have not been named. And when I'm downloading files and moving them, it's difficult to match them up to the right area, okay? Also when I'm passing them along to other people, okay? Now people have sent me an email and said, oh my gosh, I didn't use underscore or something like that. I'm not going to come screaming at you if you didn't use underscore or something like that. First name, last name, I need to know what this is, and then the date of your meeting. Okay? To me, underscore works. But if you're going to leave a space, if you're going to use a period, I'm not going to be that person who comes after you. Seriously, I got too many other things to worry about. Okay? You all do. But I need the student's name. I need to know what this page is, and I need to know the date of when that occurred. Because there are some students who've had 4 meetings since they've come to EI. To date. And we need to follow through with what's happening. Okay? And then hit submit. Yep.
Why are you referring to the page?
I'm sorry?
The page, what does that refer to?
The ID page. So it's the ID page, the framework page.
Oh, I see.
Yep, the different pages. Those 3 different pages that you work on. And you should be uploading the 3 different pages unless something didn't change. Okay? But typically something is changing each time something is occurring. Okay? Typically I should see at least 2 files. I should see the ID page to see who was there, especially if things are changing. We're in EI, a lot of things typically change, unfortunately. And I should always see your action plan. Framework, some things may or may not change. Really depends. Okay? I don't always see framework when it is a follow-up. But things could change. Okay? Action plan, really important. And it needs to be completely filled out. What happened? Okay, when it's a follow-up. All right. All right, any questions here? I have it set up that it is 10 files you can upload up to a terabyte. So you shouldn't be getting I can't upload something. If you do, refresh the page. And if on the second try it doesn't work, then email me. Okay, and I will try it again. I'll try and tech out what's happening. Don't stress yourself out, but you should be able to upload. Typically, you're not sending me more than 10 files, and that's what it is. It's not 10 pages. But if you are doing multiple pages, you should not have more than 10 files. Okay, typically you're only doing 3 files max. Unless, oops, I forgot to send them in the past. Okay? And then you can only do 10 at a time. Okay? Awesome. I'm going to close some of these tabs. All right. So let's talk about some of our devices. Okay. And for some reason, I thought I had a page on here. How do you get there? Oh, I do. Okay. Because I didn't want you all going there. Ha ha ha. Okay. So the first one that you could have, the second one that you could have chosen after iPads are some low-tech AAC devices. I know some of these are under what are considered Midtech, but we've classified these as low-tech. Okay? So as I said earlier, the GoTalks, the step-by-steps, Big Macs, switches, these are all under that list when you look at ours and you try to do a loaner. And we also have what's called a prox talker. A prox talker is a lot like PEX, but it gives language and sound when a student moves that tag. Okay, and you can make sentences. Okay, so these are all those types of what we refer to as low-tech AAC devices. Okay. A couple others are some PowerLink, and PowerLinks gives access to students to. So if you have a light or a fan that you want a student to turn on, or if you want to have a student to spin and make a turn for something for the alt turner, this gives them an opportunity to take something that you're not using, can't necessarily use a battery interrupter, This is also some of those low tech items. And the power links are really nice because they're getting more complex. The one that is on the left-hand side here is becoming more complex, and we're able to turn it into some Bluetooth access with some more added features. So there are those opportunities that we can make some more choices for students who need some more support in that area. Okay. So then we also have some mounts, and I actually have a few mounts up here in case some of your students need access to different types of switches or different types of their devices, depending on how they're accessing whatever they need support with. So on the left-hand side, this is a lock line access, and that's what I was just talking about with the proximity switch. In this case, we just have two regular switches where they're able to hit it, and it shows you in a different angle on the middle image, and then the last one just happens to be another lock line, and that is access for a student with their iPad. I have a lock line right here holding with the different access, as well as an AbleNet, which is a table mount, which again is a different type of an access. So if there's something you're looking that a student needs access other than it being on the table, or they're a chucker and it needs more support, there are ways to look at different types of mounts to support them. Some students who are in wheelchairs really can have access to their devices, to different types of switches. However we're looking at their communication, really important. And we really look at where their access is and where their access support is. Sometimes we go after knees, sometimes we go after elbows. So we really want to look at access for them to support them to have that ability to go at different areas, so we're not overusing one particular point, and then we look at mounting from thereafter. And there's lots of different types of mounting from there. And then there's more complex devices, or high-end devices. We look at the speech-generating devices, and then these become our speech-generating devices as well. These are financially higher because they are more complex. They have more interaction. So the upper right-hand corner is a Tobii eye gaze. This is literally someone is communicating with their eyes to a panel at the bottom of this device. Trish, do you have someone in your room right now with one? You have two. Okay. So Trish is someone with has two students in our classroom, and we have a few students in school age who have them. And it is wonderful if you ever get a chance to see students to be able to communicate, because just as a student you work with who's able to take their finger and communicate with their finger, these students are looking at the screen. So what they do is they look at the screen, and what will end up happening is they will dwell for a period of time, and you will see a small red spot, and then it will activate what that word is, or do whatever they've asked it to do. We have books on the devices, we have activities, we can show where their eyes are mapping to show that they're having success. So it's a great way to show that these students are actually doing what we want them to do. The student was using the Tobii on Tuesday when I was in the classroom, and it was wonderful to watch this student navigate where one particular image was in the different cells. And she went from a 2-cell all the way up to a 16-cell, and watching how she was navigating, and she was not able to do this in January of this year. So her growth was amazing, and she has some vision issues as it is. So it's just wonderful to see that growth. Yep.
Seems to me like an eye gaze would have to be really, would you put like a piece of tape on the wheelchair of attach it here
So-
that it's properly calibrated? Like, how do you-
So there is actually a piece in the upper left-hand corner to show you where the eyes are being properly located. So it's always in the middle or close enough to the middle. But there is also proper mounting.
Okay.
There is proper mounting. We actually support students so that they get we work with the manufacturer and that vendor to make sure that they get the right type of mounting. There is a stand mount that to make sure that we like to make sure that that stand mount gets there. A lot of times it's not always helped and supported, so we like to make sure that it's encouraged that it's purchased so that it can be used for a student who's in a tumble form all the way to a stander. And most times it only gets ordered for a wheelchair, and then we like to make sure that that's being encouraged to be purchased as well. So whenever we have 2 eye gaze, and Patton also loans eye gaze as well, and then also they go to the vendor when more time is needed. But we loan with a stand mount on purpose. We used to loan with just a table mount, and then we purchased the stand mount, which is foldable, and we did that on purpose. So it can go from a tumble form, the floor, all the way to a stander. So yeah. It's a little bit of an expense, but it was done on purpose for appropriate access. So okay. The one in the middle is a NovaChat, and this is used for many students. But when we look at features, know that these features match some of the same apps you will find on a speech generating device. Okay? So be aware that you may have some students who are on a NovaChat, and then they're also, when you're looking at it, looks very similar to something that are on other devices. So be aware of that. Eye gaze is one of the few that have not gone there, and I say this very cautiously, it has not gone there yet. There is software that is being built so that it can go on a tablet. They're not there yet. It's still in beta form, but they're working on it. Okay, so I may not be able to say that in another year. Okay, I did see a display in the spring, and I just saw it last week. They're getting there, and they're not ready for distribution, but I'm not sure if I could be able to say that next year. Okay, we may be seeing some students with it on a tablet, so I'm excited to say that too. Okay, and then there's different types of Dynavox devices, and that's the one on the bottom closest to me. This is one of their newest ones. This is an Indie, which is in a case, which if you see it in person, it is very much like the iPad I have near me, only it's a different case. So there are lots of different Dynavox devices. So you may have a student who comes on your caseload or comes into your classrooms who have different devices that are being supplied by their medical insurance. So what the most important part is that we get knowledge and we learn about them and how to support your students. Never are you going to, come to me and go, well, I have an eye gaze, but I'm not going to use it. Well, guess what? The way that I learned about eye gaze was jumping headfirst into it and learning. And that's what we're here for. That's what we're all here for. We're not going to let you flounder. We're going to help you learn about everything. Trish knows about eye gaze because she jumped headfirst into it and she hasn't stopped. She emails me all the time about what she wants to learn and how we can help her. So we're not going to let you flounder as well. Okay, and that's what it's all about. Okay, and the only reason why I mention Trish all the time is because those are typically the students who are going to use eye gaze. There are some other students, but her students in her classroom, those complex bodies students, are typically who we're going to see with an eye gaze system. We may see some other students. I've worked with some other students on some other caseloads, but a lot of our students are going to be in a classroom like Trish or at Easter Seals, things of that nature. Our students who are in our MDS classrooms or our complex supports needs classrooms, those are who we're looking at for eye gaze and things like that. may come across a few students, and if you do, please reach out to us, because we definitely will be wanting to support you as well. Okay. All right. So then, if you ever need support for other loaning resources, and this is on our page as well, we go through Patent. Some of you have gone through Patent, okay, if there's a need, and I can show you how to fill that out. There's manufacturers, just like when we go through the eye gaze, we go through ourselves, then we go to Patent, and then we go to the manufacturer. Because with eye gaze, we want to make sure that there's a continuous process until we get that purchase. The IU does not purchase the eye gaze system because it's a very expensive purchase. It's $10,000 plus. Yeah, I just made a few of you shocked. But it is a powerful, powerful system. And it allows students to communicate. And that's why we do the loaner process. We go through our process to make sure that this is supporting the student. And then we go through the process of loaning from Patent to figure out, well, we think a 12-inch is going to work. Well, maybe if we go to a 15, is that right? No, the 12-inch is what we need. And then we start going through that MA, that insurance process, and we go back to the manufacturer because we've run out of time on both ends. We teeter between the ATRC and we teeter between the manufacturer. Okay? And I will tell you that Toby is the company that has the target on eye gaze. We have not found another company who does as well on eye gaze. If we did, we'd have one. We have two right now. So if we find another company, trust me, we will get one. PIAT is available, but because we have the ATRC as a lending library, we try not to use them. They have asked us to try not to use them, and we probably have as large a lending library in the areas they do. You also have to sign away your life to them. So I encourage you to use us. It's a little bit easier. Or I encourage you as a team to not have to have your family use them because you're not essentially signing your life away to them. So, but we have had people use PIAT before. Families have come on as part of us as well. Okay, so PIAT is out there, but most people, once they come into the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit system, stop using PIAT. All right, so I'd like to take you to the web page, and this is how you get there. So if you go onto the MCIU webpage, in the upper right-hand corner, there is the search feature. You're going to put in assistive technology. So I'd like all of you to go to this. I'm going to keep this up there until you get there. And then you'll hit read more. Because I'm going to walk you through a few things. We should be the first link there. Yeah. Okay. All right, I'm going to quick open mine. I'm going to close some tabs so that it's not so painful. All right, so that's where you're headed. Anybody still need to get there? Stacy, did it open? Okay. All right, so I'm going to open my page. So this is the web page. Okay, I think we've been here before. I just want to make some reminders. Okay. The first one is this information at the top, ignore it. Okay, so remember we're ignoring it. Okay. You are remembering it once we get to please visit. So this is how we're getting to you needing a loaner. This is how we're getting to your set paperwork. Okay? Because when you leave here and you forget how to log in to today's session, you're going to be like, Tammy, I need help. Okay? I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. Okay? Because we're going to go through that. Where it says Symbaloo, this is how you can get some training, some support. Okay? Set process. Lots and lots of links after today when you go, I need some more support. Okay? Left-hand side is basic information. Right-hand side is goals and assessment. And lower left-hand side is how to get back to this page. Okay? The AAC one, which is right above it, talks about the setup of apps and how to learn how to do anything with them. Okay? So say you have never worked with Proloquo Go before. You've never worked with Snap Plus Core before. You've never worked with Go Talk Now before. And you're like, but I think from our conversations, some of these are going to work for this kiddo or that kiddo. AAC, Symbaloo, is going to give you that training and that basic foundation before you come back to me and go, now I need more. Okay? Because I'm going to open it in a new link. Because that's the first question I'm going to ask you. Did you go on here and did you go to one of these, whichever one you're going to work on with your student, and get support? That's step one. You can also put this link for whichever one you're working with on your set paperwork for that action plan. Okay? So I wouldn't put the Symbaloo, but say what works out perfect for your student is the Snap Plus Core first. Okay? This actually opens into, I'm going to open it up here. I just opened it into a new page. I'm going to pause it. All I did was this corner up here, that arrow, opened it into a new window, took you to the direct YouTube link. Okay? That's the YouTube link you can put on your set paperwork. Okay? This is the introduction to Core First.
So are we supposed to make all the team members watch this?
You can support their training.
I'd rather just have them write me a word list and I'll just do it instead of them asking me 3,000 questions.
Nope. You can support them learning to how to use the system. That's not them editing. That is them learning how to use the device. Two different things, right? Because editing is me going in and supporting how the student is going to use 5 core words compared to 100 core words, right? But how do I actually understand how to use this device, correct? Two different things. Two very different things. Proloquo Go has different devices, different videos as well. Backups is really important. Different things like that. We showed some videos on implementation. Those are something you might want to put on there as well. Okay? Very targeted videos that you may want to put on, and I use the term may. It's totally up to what the team is going to need support on. You may have some great teams, but you also may have some teams that need support. Also, if new people come on as well. Think about that as follow-ups. Okay? But this also is something that you can be using as well. Okay? So we've created these. I'm going to close it. We've created this as a way to support you in learning the different apps that you have available. Okay? Yep?
Do we have to create an account? Because when I'm on,
No.
I don't see that little arrow you just said on the link. It doesn't appear.
Well, I have to look at it, but
I can create a free account.
you don't have to create an account.
Or sign in, or I don't know.
You shouldn't. Nope, you shouldn't. Let me open it on where I'm not signed in.
Can you just scroll down a little bit? And it's down there?
No, see a little arrow at the top. If you click on here,
Here, I'm logged. I shouldn't be logged in on my account over here. No, I'm logged in. Hold on. Let me get signed out.
It's still there.
Sorry, just needed to get logged out of my account.
Are you on the Snapcore project? This arrow?
I didn't even see that.
Here, I just see it's up there again. I'm not logged in. There's the arrow, upper left hand. We can look at it then and see what's going on. Here's my arrow right here. Do you see it? So all it's doing is it's right here. Okay, now you see it? Perfect. Okay, just want to make sure you saw it. So all of these have been created so that you can have different training, and I don't have to do your baseline. Okay. The most important one that gets that gets seen the most and gets touched the most is the AAC. Okay. But if there is something that you need more support on, I can create more as well. Okay. And then down below are your set documents. We will be breaking this into school age, and then we will be breaking it into preschool and giving you some samples as well. Okay, so you will be, will want to look for that. We'll have your supervisors send out an email once that's been updated. Okay. All right. And then what I want to make sure that you understand is looking at this link. So where it says, please visit. Okay. I'm going to take you to that page. Now, no, your page is going to look a little bit different than mine because I'm logged in. Your page should pop up with the search feature right here. Okay, and actually, let me try and copy it over to Firefox. It's typically when mine pops up. There it is. Okay. So this is how it typically should pop up for you. You have a search feature right here. These are based off of the main titles we have for you. Okay. You'll notice at the top of the screen, it talks about, this is what our lending library is. This link is when you want a loan. This link used to be down here. This is for your set paperwork to upload. This is covered up in case I need it and I don't want to lose it. You used to request set paperwork this way. Please don't do it. No one's looking at those links at the moment. But device request, set paperwork. If you're requesting a device, you're going to upload your documents. I will be checking between the two. You will not get any information from me until I see the actual set paperwork. If you need to tell me anything like, Tammy, I'm running behind on my set paperwork, it won't be uploaded until X date. Because you've got that last line. That's helpful. I know you're working on your set paperwork. I understand paperwork. I understand your job. I've been there. That means I will start on your device, and it will sit there. And if you're lucky, I'll send you out the email as a reminder and say, don't forget, this needs to be uploaded. Your device is ready. But you may not pick it up until the set paperwork has been uploaded. Or make sure it's been uploaded before you walk in the door. Okay? I am that kind. Okay? But set paperwork has to be uploaded. Okay? I'm missing quite a number of them. Now, after the black lines, I'm going to click on iPad. Look, I jumped right to iPad. So if I want to know about iPads, I can go right to the iPads. Talks about what we have. Okay? If I want to know about AAC apps, I can just click on AAC apps. We have a plethora of AAC apps. Okay? If I want to know about environmental control, I can click on environmental control. And I can learn about it. So that's what the power link is. It's environmental control. This whole side will be there because you're not logged into this form and editing it like I am. Okay? So it will always be there for you. And you can log in and see what's there. You can also search. So if you hit Control F, Control Find, search will pop up. And you can search for specific items you're looking for. Okay? This then matches up to when you're filling out the form. So environmental control is under that section for environmental control. iPads are under iPads, and then the subsection of what your app is. Does that make sense, ladies? Great. All right. Are there any questions when we come to this? So this is the document that you're always going to fill out when you're loaner, to fill out when you have new set paperwork or updated paperwork. Okay? This will not change, so you're welcome to post it as a bookmark. But what I tell most people is, if you just keep an eye on where our website is, it's always there. Okay? Because Google does do funny things, and it's just easier if you know where you can access us. Okay? All right. Let me go back here. So we will be getting that updated set paperwork and samples up on the website. Julie and I are going to be working on that in the next couple weeks. The EI open house is going to be posted on the TVs. I'm not going to post the schedule on the website so it doesn't get mixed up with our districts and everything. Okay? But I will make sure that the new sheet that I have with the date change is sent out to your supervisors so they can get it sent out to not only all of you, but also everyone else across EI. Okay? And just a reminder that November 16th one has been canceled. Okay? And then I talked to you about loaner access. And I want you to be aware of something. I'm going to switch between these two pages. So you notice this is what it looks like today. This is what it looked like last week. Anybody notice a difference?
Took off the date.
What date did I take off?
October 1st. You're saying that everything was going to be processed after Monday, and now everything's being processed.
Right. So when I am away, I say I can't process everything. Okay? Please know that correlates to my out of office. No one in this room, but I was sent a few emails from the same person last week while I was away who is requesting a device. And when I am away, I put this on prior to me going away, put it on a couple of days, although I still process devices during that time if I can. So I ask you, please read every time you go there in case I am not here, so that you can plan accordingly. I've had some people put in requests prior to your set meeting because you've already discussed with your team. They put it in a day or two, so that you're aware of me being away, or you are welcome to go to the form yourself so that you can plan accordingly. Unfortunately, I'm not here 365 days a year. Unfortunately, I'm not. But I do put on here when I am away, and I was away all of last week. So I encourage you to look at the set form at your meeting so that you know how quickly you may or may not get your device, because that extended some devices a little longer than this person expected. Okay. So I encourage you to look at that. That will always be there. I just moved that statement down, the first statement down. So please look at that as you're planning. Okay. Again, it was no one in here, but I encourage you as much as I can to please look at that. All right. Some additional resources for your own training and time. Some great resources are those two links that you have on your screen. So CTD Institute is a great place to find some resources for yourself, some webinars. They are free, as well as AbleNet does some great webinars. You do not have to watch them live for either company. They archive them there, and you're able to go back later and watch them. They both do some great webinars for AAC, as well as different types of mounting and implementation. So they are some great resources, and I wanted to bring them to your attention. Okay. I wanted to also remind you that since this is our last session, that you want to make sure that you do your survey in My Learning Plan if you attended all 4 sessions. If there's any questions, please feel free to email me. Let me know how I can support you so that we can set up a virtual appointment. I know I just did one this week, yesterday, and that worked out really well for us. It cuts down on my travel time. It cuts down on your travel time. And there is the open house on the Fridays for you. So really want to be able to support you so that you can have success as well as your students. Okay? And then just a reminder, the more that we can support our students, since it is AAC month, this is just one of those images I like to pull out. You know, anything that we can do to support our students to communicate. You are not the only one who should be being the advocate for them, but you tend to be the only one who does that. You know, we want to make sure that we're supporting students, and we talk about our AAC learners, and if they're only getting communication twice a week for those 20 or 30 minutes, it's going to take them 84 years to be at that fluent as a typical student who is an 18-month-old. So anything you can do to support others is very beneficial. Yeah?
We typically go talk before we would be filing a telephone go, or are we doing, I know we're doing restricting, and we get kids, so it's just nonverbal.
There is no prerequisite for any type of communication device except breathing. So that's the goal, is to support our students to communicate.
No, are we typically trying the low tech before we go to the high tech? No?
What can your student do? That's what it comes down to. And nowadays, so many students are using a higher tech system in general within their home. I mean, I have so many of my friends that their 12-month-old is using this at a kitchen table, at a restaurant. So having a conversation with the family of what they can do comes down to what you can do to support them. So there is nothing to stop us from going from we can't communicate, then going to a device. Depends what the student needs. Do they need to use a speech generating device with a static display, or do they need a switch with communication access? What do they need to have functional communication? That's what it comes down to. That's the real look at what they need. Okay. All right. So then I want to thank you all. If there's any questions, you know I'm here. I'll stick around, and then I hope to see some of you, most of you, at the coming open houses. All right. Yeah.
I have a quick question. If there's a group of parents who have speech therapists who is working with a contractor and they've asked about a set meeting, what should we be telling them to initiate that? Because there are things on here that they
We don't have anything set up that's going to have to come down from who is going to be responsible and things like that. I'm not sure what's come about or who's going to decide what's going to.
I asked you the question.
Yeah.
Yes. I asked this question on the first session,
Yep.
and Patty said, or Julie said to tell them that someone from the IU has to sign it out. They have to be the person that fills out.
Well, I don't know if you're talking about a loaner. You're talking about the set process.
Yes.
Right.
Set process, not even
Right. It's you're not even at the loaner process. Right. You're at the who's going to be responsible to do the set. Right. I don't know if they've decided who is going to do the set yet or not. I know Chris said that he was going to look into it, but
I'll see if he found the answers. If not, I mean, if it's going to get to the point where we think the power of device, it would need to be an IU employee of some sort. There would be a meeting process. Obviously, the speech therapist who kind of lead, but you're all members of the team. So it would have to, if we do think it's going to get to that point, it would have to be someone from the IU. But I'll see if Chris found the answer to that and make sure it's communicated for all parties.
right. And what we had mentioned was someone would need to facilitate it. I mean, we all can be facilitators, but who is going to be responsible is your question. Right. So we still need to find out who's going to be responsible if there is not an IU person on the team. So some type of a case manager, but who is that person, that speech therapist, that someone? Okay. Perfect. Anything else, ladies? All right. So make sure you have signed in, and then thank you very much. Let me know if there's anything you need. All right. Enjoy yourself, ladies.